Hey guys, hope you're doing well. My name is Emma, and it's the time of the month where we start talking through all of our knitting projects. So this past month, I feel like it's been a weird month. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment as well. But like at the very beginning of the month, I feel like I was like full steam ahead, making great progress in some of my knits. And then all of a sudden I've just like hit this like roadblock, and I haven't really worked on anything for the last I feel like 2 weeks. I've barely touched anything. But yeah, let's get into it. We're all whips today. All right, first one that I'm going to share with you is my Sunshine Tee. So this is a pattern by Andrea Gaughan. It calls for a light fingering. Weight yarn is knit on a 3.25 millimeter needle for the body. You size down to 2.75 or 2.25 for like the finishing details. Very quickly about the construction, top down. It's got again, I keep calling it a sudden sleeve. I don't know if that's the right term for it. Got a sleeve, and it's an all over stock net stitch. This one, you knit it the same as you would like a drop shoulder kind of situation. So you start with the back here, cast on, and you knit like that kind of trapezoid shape. This one's done using like short rows, so you can kind of see there's a bit of a seam there from the trapezoid kind of shape of the back piece. You knit down, do some increases to shape your armhole there. You then pick up your two little shoulder pieces. You do some increases around your neckline to give it some shape in there. Bring it together and continue to knit that front piece down. Again, doing like your increases to create your armhole. Once you've done that, you just continue to knit down on the body until you're happy with the length, and then you finish this one off with a folded hem. So you do size down into your needles. You knit some stock net stitch and you fold that up and seam it in. There is the optional decreases before you start that to stop like flare, but like I say, it's optional in the pattern. You then pick up your sleeves. There's some short row shapings for the shoulder cap, and then again you're doing the same as the body, kind of just like knitting down till you're happy with the length, finishing with that folded hem yet again, and then you would pick up your collar and you just do this again in stock net, fold it and seam it down, and you would be done. For my piece, I am knitting mine in the yarn called for in the pattern, which is the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. So it's 70% cotton, 30% merino, and I've got mine in the color Mole. I have made a few alterations to mine, so quickly recap those. I did size my needles down to a 3mm because I just feel like the fabric looks so much better in a 3mm needle than a 3.25. It's such a subtle difference, but it's a difference. I casted mine on and started knitting mine to a size F to account for like my gauge being off and everything like that. And then I've sized down into the body. So I was aiming for about 10 centimeters of positive ease. Probably more than that at the moment, but it's really hard to tell because I don't have a heap of fabric on here at the moment. Since you last saw her, I've only spent like an hour and a half on this. Like, she has had zero attention from me because last time where I was basically up to was I had started with my collar. As you can see, I've now finished the collar, so I only had like a few more rows to knit, and then I just had to like bind off and seam it down, so I've done that. I may have to end up redoing the finishing of that though, because for whatever reason I thought this was like the back of my piece and it's actually the front of my piece, so I finished and bound off and sewed it all down, and then I realized as I was like coming down here that this is actually the front of my piece. And so it's got like a little bit of an ugly bit here, right where like the start, like where I bound off and started seaming that down. And I was like, is it that noticeable? Probably not, but at the same time, it's right in the front, so I might end up doing it. I have just like a little bit of yarn left. I haven't cut my tail yet, so I've probably got enough to maybe like bring it up to like knit to the shoulder and then rebind off, like sew it down. So I might do that, but yeah. Also on this one, another reason why I haven't really picked it up is because my armhole depth is just way too deep for like more of a baby tee situation, right? Like, look how deep that armhole is. So I put in a pin. Oh no, now I don't know which pin it was meant to be. It must be this one here. I can't remember what pin. I basically need to rip back to here, and I think that's where I want my underarm to be. Yeah, that's why I think I put that pin in. See, I did this ages ago and I tried it on and I was like, yeah, I think I need to like lift it up, and now I've forgotten like what I was going to do with it. But I think basically what I need to do is this brown pin is where I started on my increases, and then this is where I actually want to like finish. So I need to rip back probably a little bit higher, restart those increases. I'm going to do that front back rejoin and then re-knit down. I might also take off some of the circumference as well, because I have a feeling that it's probably going to be on the slightly too baggy side. So I really need to put some thinking into this piece, put some math into it, and that's mainly why I haven't worked on her. So that's my sunshine tee. And the sun is starting to shine. It's still pretty cold right now when I'm filming this. It's like a random cold day, but like the sun's starting to shine. I should have her finished, but I don't. All right, next up is my other like summer top situation. This is how she is looking. You can't really tell what it is because it's all bunched up on the needles. But this is my redo of the camisole number 4, which is patterned by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Calls for fingering weight knit on 3.5 millimeter needles. Very simple construction on this one. It's just a top down camisole in a 2x2 broken rib. You can see there. And basically all you do is you start on by like knitting like these triangles. All the triangles are the same. The back ones are just a lot smaller than the front ones, but you do like a little provisional cast on, start doing some increases to kind of create this triangle shape. You then basically connect all the triangles together and continue to knit down in the round until you have the length, and then you come back and pick up those provisional cast on stitches at the top of these triangles, and you do a I-cord strap to connect it all together, and then it would be done. Very basic. There's no shaping or anything in the pattern for this particular one. For mine, I'm using the recommended yarn. So the first time I made this, I used some Temu yarn, and like I never wear it. Okay, first of all, the Temu one it's very heavy because I ended up pulling 3 strands together because I didn't quite grasp the concept of like the gauge and everything like that. But I placed like a Knitting for Olive order, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to buy the silk just so I can like use it on something. I don't know why I did this, but anyways, I don't think this is going to be a top that I get a huge amount of wear out of. It will easily fit into my wardrobe because it's black and it's going to go with everything. It's easy to wear and all that jazz. But at the same time, I'm realizing like some of the knitted looking things are just not really my vibe, and I'll touch on that in my next piece as well. But, you know, here we are, we're remaking again because I wanted to use the Knitting for Olive pure silk. So it's 100% silk, and I've got mine in the color coal. For mine, I've sized down on my needles again for this one because I didn't like how loose the gauge looks. So I've gone for a 3.25 millimeter needle on this one. I'm following the size large, but I have added on some extra stitches onto the side, like the underarms and the kind of back panel piece here too, which I'm pretty sure that's the back panel piece. And yeah, hopefully that comes out fine. I need to get a little bit more fabric on my needles to really grasp whether I'm going good for size or not. But yeah, I did that. I also reversed the center, this one here that runs down the center. So I'm doing knit stitches. The pattern calls for you to do broken rib down the center, but I feel like when you do that with the increases either side, it stretches it out, makes it look a little bit more gapey and see-through. So I've just reversed mine. I've also started with more stitches for my provisional cast on because I plan on doing a flat strap instead of an I-cord strap, which I realized I have actually made a mistake. So I've forgotten to account for my edge stitches when doing my cast ons. I'm now 2 stitches short on all of my provisional cast ons. So we'll deal with that when we come to dealing with that. But I was like, oh, like I'm not starting again. Anyways, I think those are like the main changes that I've made on mine. I've worked on this. I've actually got a considerable amount of time on this. I did 18 hours total on this, so another 8 hours since you last saw her. I feel like I barely pick this up. I pick it up and I do like 3 rounds. I work it for like half an hour at a time and then I put it down because I'm like over it. But yeah, that's where I'm up to on her. So she's going to be really slow going. I don't know what it is lately. I just don't have any motivation to work on anything. And again, like, I think I've had this in the past as well when I'm just like very uncertain on sizing for everything. And I'm just like, do I keep going or do I pause? Do I think about some more or what do? I don't know. And this is kind of one of them where I know I need to get some extra length on the fabric so I can see how it's looking. But I just, I don't know. I'm in a funk at the moment. So, next up, this is my Salty Days sweater. Oh my gosh, I put all of my time and energy into this one. This is why nothing else has got any attention. I've just been gravitating towards this one because, first of all, I think like I like doing fingering weight knits because they're like all teensy tiny and like, you know, but at the same time, like I feel like I've got to be in a mood for a fingering weight knit and I just haven't really been in that mood lately. So I've been gravitating towards the DK weight knit, and this is also a very potato chippy pattern because you've got like sections that you're like going through as well. So let me tell you about this one. So this is Salty Days sweater by Kuto Vikika, calls for lace plus DK to be held together. Body's meant to be knit on 5mm, finishing on 3mm. Top down, drop shoulder, all over textured knit. Most of the texture is this ribbing, which is like a 1x2 rib. For this being drop shoulder, you start same as Sunshine Tee basically. As you cast on, you knit your kind of back trapezoid shape piece. This one's done using increases. You then pick up like your shoulder section, so you knit your shoulder piece, doing some shaping for the front. Do the same for the other side, connect them two together, continue to knit down. Once you're happy with the length, now the length for this one you have to do it in the ribbing section before you start your diamonds, because once you start your diamonds, like it's obviously different like charts going down from there. So you want to make sure you get your right length in the ribbed section for your yoke. For mine, I did add a little bit of extra length. The pattern calls for you to basically stop where your increases are. But you can see I've added in a little bit of extra length there, and that was like, I don't know what is up with my gauge measurements as well, because like I initially knitted it like twice the length and I had to rip back and like redo sections because it was suddenly becoming like too deep. And anyways, here we are. Once you've done your front and back pieces, you join in the round, you move on to the next chart, and then there's like another diamond chart after that, and then you go back into the ribbing, and then you finish off in a 1x1 twisted rib. You then pick up for your sleeves, you do the same. 1x2 rib for the sleeve. Actually, I've got the sleeve to show you. So you do all that the way down, and then you do the eyelet and diamond little bit that you see the section here at the end of the sleeve before you move on to the cuff, which again is the 1x1 twisted rib, and then you pick up for your collar, 1x1 twisted rib again. This is a folded collar too on this one. Now for my piece, I'm knitting mine in a cotton, so I'm using Bendigo Woolen Mills cotton 8-ply. This is in the colour 887 Latte. Last time you saw her, we had ripped back the yoke and she was just like a little back panel, so we've definitely made a lot of progress in the last month on her. So basically, yeah, redone my entire yoke. I've now knit this one according to size extra large. So the first one I kind of customed based on my gauge watch, and that was just, it was coming out too, the yoke was far too shallow and then the width was like far too wide. So we're now just following the extra large. I did still make some alterations to the neckline, so I ended up still sticking to my like initial cast on stitch count, which was like only 6 stitches more than what the pattern called for, just because when I did cast it on with the stitch count according to the pattern, the neckline was just like so like narrow in this back bit, and I was just like, oh, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to regret that later. So I ended up just sticking to my original kind of stitch count for this cast on edge, and centimeter wise it should have married up kind of to what the pattern was initially intended for. So I was like, nah, I feel like this is the right move. So to account for like my extra stitches that I had cast on, I think I ended up doing like one less set of increases on the back panel here. And then I just did some extra decreases in my eyelet rounds to adjust my stitch count back down to the right stitch count. So when I joined in the round, we were back to where we were meant to be. It was really no big deal to incorporate that. My diamond charts here just have like one extra like knit stitch on the side here, which is, depending what size you're knitting, that's really the only difference between all of them, is that how many stitches are on the edge. So yeah, easy peasy modification that we made in terms of sizing now. So just basically sticking to the pattern and going from there. What else have I done? So yeah, basically we've done the entire yoke, we've joined in the round, we've done all of the charts. I'm actually up to like the last eyelet round before we move on to the ribbing, but I used up my ball of yarn, so I just decided to like pause there. I've done my collar and the 1x1 twisted rib. Oh my gosh, that was a bit of a pain in the ass to do, but like I'm glad it's done. I picked up my stitches at just like a rate of, I think it was like around about, did I do 2 or 3 or 3 or 4? I can't remember now. But I was on, no, I must have done 3 out of 4 because I wanted it to be on the like looser side. So I didn't actually count how many stitches I picked up. I just kind of winged it. And the fit's looking pretty good at the moment. I think over time, if this stretches a lot, it may end up stretching out too much, but I'd rather have a collar that's slightly too big than too small, because we can easily fix a too big collar just by like putting in a crochet seam along the back to keep it like holding in, or putting some elastic in. Whereas if it's too small, the only option is to rip back, pick up more stitches and make it bigger, right? So we did that, and then we've now picked up for a sleeve. I've picked up, or again, I just kind of guesstimated my stitches here, but we picked up 96 stitches on the sleeve. So I did have to make sure that I was kind of counting these to make sure that my ribbing was going to work out. And then for the decreases, so I did read the pattern, and like I feel like it would make sense when I was actually knitting, but like I kind of read it and I was like, I don't know if that makes super sense to me in terms of how to do the decrease. So I just opted to do a centered double decrease and just evenly space them out, so there is a gradual like the columns just gradually kind of come together. So you can kind of see that there. This is currently damp because I did just block this sleeve because I wanted to see how big it was going to grow, because currently with all these decreases in there, you can see it's quite a lot. She's definitely a little bit too narrow. Like I tried her on and I was like, oh, it's a bit fitted, but also knowing that it is like a cotton, I was like, how much is this going to grow when I wet block it? And I can just tell just by holding up, I'm like, she ain't big enough. So we are going to rip back and redo the sleeve with far fewer decreases. I don't know, I have to do some math and work that out, because I also need to make sure that I have enough stitches at this point to do the diamond motif, or that I don't have to do too many like increases, decreases, or whatever I need to do to make that work out. Which actually reminds me, the diamond motif chart in the round. So this is the chart that everyone has an issue with. And they have an issue where it's in like the beginning of the round is because there's some instructions for the like that kind of stitch there where it's like a knit together or whatever it is there that you do. I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. I don't know if mentally, because I knew that it was a pain point, that I was very like conscious when I was reading the instructions just to like follow it carefully, but I was able just to follow the like written instructions in the pattern, no problem, or made sense to me. It worked out perfectly fine. So I don't know why it's such an issue for everyone, but like I say, it could be because I was conscious of it, that I was very careful. I don't know. But I did end up redoing this diamond chart like a few times, because turns out these diamonds and these diamonds did not align on mine. And I'm pretty sure that's the pattern's fault, not my fault. But to remedy that, I basically just moved my beginning of round, and then like the first time I did it, I mucked it up by like 1 stitch. I'm so mad at myself. So I didn't do the full chart. I just did like the first like couple eyelets, so you could kind of see it taking place, and then I could see that it was like misaligned to like what was above, and I was like, how annoying. So I did have to redo this like a few times. I also, on this chart here, I extended mine by a couple extra cable rounds as well. So I think it calls for like 4 of these cable twists, and I end up doing like 6 cable twists on mine, mainly because I know my row gauge is off, and like it would have looked fine being skinny, but like I think I could have, like, I've been able to get away with having a thicker chunk there, and I think it just extends the section of different texture and amongst the ribbing, so that you just won't have too much ribbing on the bottom, is where I'm going with that. So pretty happy with that like slight tweak to the pattern, and I'm happy that my diamonds are now aligned. Next we'll have to make sure that our ribbing looks aligned, which is going to be another fun challenge to make sure that that works out. But anyways, this one I've spent, like I said, I dedicated like a lot of time to her. I've spent 50 hours on her since you last saw her. So we're at a total of 73 and a half at the moment on this particular piece. So yeah, next up, I've got to wait for this to dry properly. I think I'm just going to rip it back, rework out my decrease rate, do the sleeves. Yeah, if we are feeling motivated, she may be finished next time you see her. But if we're not feeling motivated, which is how I'm feeling right now, let's hopefully get at least a sleeve done. That's going to be my goal. All right, last one. I feel like we're flying through these updates because I'm just in a, like, I don't know, mood with all of my knits at the moment. I'm not that excited about any of them, so I'm not rambling too much about them, which is interesting. But anyways, next up. This is one I'm not even meant to be knitting. This is the start of my Lennox sweater. So it's a pattern by the Creia Bear or Rebecca Clow. It's a DK weight knit, and it's meant to be knit on a 3.5mm needle. Finishing's done in 2.75mm needles. This one is a quarter zipper jumper. So it's a top down knit, drop shoulder construction, and it's in half fisherman's rib. But you do it like the brioche style stitch, not like the into the one below stitch. So I would call this half brioche. But nonetheless, in order to make this one, so you start with what I've got here. This is the collar section. So you basically knit a big section flat. You start with provisional cast on, so you can fold and then like seam that together. You then put some of your stitches on hold. So you can see on either side we've got stitches on hold. And then you start like working like this back panel piece here. So you cast on extra stitches, and then you start doing some German short rows to start shaping this back piece. So think of the same as like all my other ones where you got that back trapezoidal shape. That's basically what we're creating, but it's already attached to your collar. And then you just knit down, depending on what size you're knitting. There is some shaping for the underarms. You then pick up for your shoulder. There's some more German short rows worked for your shoulder, and I still don't quite understand like why or what their purpose is there, but somehow you connect back to this collar on the front. So I don't know if the German short rows are like to kind of fill in a gap or like what it's for, but anyways, there's some shaping as soon as you pick up your shoulder, but like it's a flat front section shoulder anyways. But you knit those two panels down. Because you're creating a hole for the zipper, you are knitting that whole section flat still until you either reach the right depth for your zipper, then you'll connect the two front pieces together, or until you're ready to like join in the round, and then you just bring it all together. So you continue to knit down in your half fisherman's rib until you're happy with your length in the body, and then you switch to a smaller needle and you do 1 by 1 ribbing as the finishing on that. You then pick up for your sleeves. Just knit those in the same half fisherman's rib, apart from, again, once you move into the round, it's a slightly different technique than when you were knitting flat. I forgot to mention that just before. But you do some gradual decreases down the sleeve, and then you can finish with 1 by 1 ribbing there too. And then the last thing you just need to do is you knit like a facing for the like inside of the zipper, and then you install your zipper in between like this collar fabric that will be like on the outside, and then you've got like a little facing on the inside, so you can kind of like sandwich it. Basically like you see here, right? But you just continue it down, which is why I've got some stitches on hold. But yeah, you seam in your stitch, your zipper, and then you would be done. Now for my one, I'm using Bendigo Woolen Mills Willamy I don't know how to pronounce that still. It's 8-ply yarn. It is 100% single origin Corriedale wool, and this is the color 2959 Ironbark. In terms of needle size, I was not able to hit gauge with a 3.5mm needle. I've actually sized right up to a 4.5mm needle for this current one, and I feel like I'm on gauge. But I also did a swatch that you were seeing last time in a 4mm needle, and I was like, I don't know which one. I was like calling them gauge swatches. I had just started the collar pieces and called them gauge swatches, and look, this gauge swatch just got a little bit bigger than the other gauge swatch is what's happened, because I don't know if I like the 4.5mm needles. I'm also concerned that it's going to be too big, because when I lay this down flat and like the ribbon is a little bit more cinched up, I'm pretty sure I'm like on gauge. But then I'm like, this is such a stretchy fabric that if it just has a, like, you know, once you add the weight of the jumper onto it, the whole thing's going to stretch out way down. I'm like, is this going to be way too big if I do it in a 4.5mm needle? But yeah, I keep like looking at it, I'm like, nah, there's not that much difference between the 4 and the 4.5 in terms of the look of the fabric. But then at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I like the 4.5. I don't know what to do with this one. But yeah, I've obviously done the collar, done the back piece. I've just blocked it to like really sense check in terms of like size and how this is going to like stretch out. But I've spent about 14 hours on this so far. It's really enjoyable to knit, actually. I quite enjoy doing the half fisherman's rib. It's very easy, and this yarn is so nice. Even when it's like this, it's still like a little bit damp, but oh my gosh, it's like a cloud. But like, it's summer. Like, why am I knitting like a thick jumper right now? Should be focusing on my summer knits to get them finished. But yeah, that's where I'm up to this. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to talk about on this particular one. But yeah, that's it. That's everything that I've been working on in this last month. Like I say, like, start of the month, honestly, I was on fire. Like, whoa, what happened to my hair there? Yeah, I was on fire. I got so much of my Salty Day sweater done, and then all of a sudden I've just like hit this roadblock, and I'm like, oh, every now and then when I'm like a little bit bored, I'll pick something up, and then I work on it for like half an hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. So yeah, we'll see where this month goes in terms of like progress. I don't know how we're going to go, but yeah, let me know, like, what do you do to get out of like your little knitting ruts and get back into it and get yourself motivated? That's not casting on a new project, because look, I may have just this morning purchased a new pattern, but at the same time, I'm like, stop. We're not going to cast on something new. We don't have enough cables. One of my cables broke too. Oh, it's not fully broken, but it's one of these ones that I bought from Temu. The little like nylon cable just like snapped. So we're mourning the loss of one of my most used cable lengths. So I can't add on like a new project into my collection, because we just can't. We don't have the space on our needles. We have to finish one before we start a new one. But I do have a weekend swatch that you can't even see because it's black. I'm also not that keen to like be working on a black, because I find it annoying to work on at night. But then also, like, we've got longer nights. I don't know. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the updates this month. We've got plenty of other project vlogs and things coming up on the channel, and I will see you guys next month. Well, actually, I'll see you in the next one, but like next month too. All right, bye guys. I don't know about this lighting, but what can I do? Nothing. I wonder if I shut that blind, if it's going to be any better. Are we too dark now? Now we're too dark. I don't know, the lighting still looks a little bit off, but whatever, we're going to continue. This is my camisole. No. Oh my god, dishwasher. For the sleeve. Oh my god, someone's about to start drilling. This is another one. I shouldn't be working on this.